Morning of September 13, 1939. The sun rises weakly over the Polish plains, filtered by acrid smoke clouds that hang like a shroud over the Bzura river, where the air carries the metallic smell of blood mixed with fresh gunpowder, and the ground trembles with the distant roar of advancing German engines. Polish soldiers, exhausted, with cold sweat running down their backs under torn and mud-stained uniforms, prepare for a desperate counteroffensive, their hearts pounding like war drums, while paralyzing terror tightens their dry throats with the echo of sporadic shots breaking the oppressive silence of dawn. This is the front line of the Nazi invasion, where brutality intensifies day by day, transforming peaceful villages into scenes of visceral horror, with the stench of decomposing bodies mixing with the smell of earth churned by explosions. Poland, invaded just 12 days ago, resists with fierce tenacity, but the German forces, with their mechanized and aerial war machine, advance without mercy, leaving a trail of destruction that burns the eyes and suffocates the lungs. In the west, near the Bzura, Polish troops launch the second phase of their largest counteroffensive. Crossing the icy river whose murky and cold waters reflect the chaos of the gray sky, where the constant hum of enemy planes makes muscles tense in anticipation of bombs falling like deadly rain. General Władysław Bortnowski orders the 26th and 16th Infantry Divisions to advance on Wołocz. Feeling the soft and soaked ground give way under heavy boots, the air filled with the clatter of machine guns and the smell of sulfur burning the nostrils. Meanwhile, the 4th Division reaches the road to Główno, but fear of a counterattack from the German 4th Panzer Division forces a tactical retreat, leaving the soldiers with the bitter taste of frustration in their dry mouths, and the sound of explosions echoing like thunder, sending fragments of earth and metal cutting exposed skin. Horses neigh in agony, their hooves sinking into the blood-soaked mud, while bodies of fallen comrades stink of recent death, the warmth of blood contrasting with the damp cold of morning. In the north, the Battle of Modlin erupts with renewed fury, Polish fortifications shaking under heavy German artillery bombardment, with stones and dust flying in clouds that irritate the eyes and suffocate the breath of the entrenched defenders, whose hearts beat unevenly to the sound of grenades exploding nearby, sending vibrations that make teeth grind. In Warsaw, the besieged capital, the Germans resumed the offensive with intensified savagery. The German army with 13 divisions and 1,000 artillery pieces, attacking the Praga district from both sides of the Vistula, the wide and somber river echoing the impacts of bombs falling like destructive hail, opening smoking craters in the ground that trembles like a living earthquake. The air vibrates with the deafening roar of Luftwaffe planes, releasing explosive loads that make buildings collapse into piles of hot rubble, the smell of burned wood and scorched flesh impregnating everything. While civilians, with panic freezing their muscles and icy sweat running down pale faces, run to improvised shelters, feeling the heat of flames licking cracked walls and muffled screams echoing through narrow and pitted streets. Thousands of Jews and Poles, a third of the city's population, face daily terror, their prayers in synagogues interrupted by the boom of explosions shaking the stained glass, mixing dust and smoke with sacred incense, while the smell of collective fear hangs dense in the confined air. In the south and east, advanced German units reach the outskirts of Lwów, the important city in eastern Galicia, where the ground vibrates with the advance of tanks crushing dusty roads, the air loaded with dust that irritates the throat. while the Polish government, led by President Ignacy Mościcki and Marshal Edward Rydz, Śmigły, moves to Zaleszyki on the Romanian border, ordering a general retreat behind the Vistula and San rivers, in hopes of defending the Romanian bridgehead. But panic spreads like wildfire, with soldiers feeling the weight of uncertainty on aching shoulders, the chill of doubt piercing bones like cutting wind. At the same time, in the south and west, the SS Brandenburg Division, with its skull insignia evoking death, begins its cleaning and security measures. A cruel euphemism for the systematic horror unfolding in villages like those around Opoczno, Siemianowice, and 13 other localities, where troops arrest suspicious elements, Jews, Poles, intellectuals, and supposed looters, and shoot them summarily, many killed while trying to escape. The dry and repetitive sound of shots resounding in empty and silent streets. Hot blood flowing over cold and hardened earth, leaving a trail of inert bodies that stink of premature decomposition under the pale Sunday. In Cecylówka, German troops massacre between 54 and 68 innocent civilians. The air filled with the agonizing moans of the wounded, and the ferrous smell of blood spilled on dew-damp grass, while families feel paralyzing terror upon hearing doors being broken down and orders shouted in harsh German. In the following night, in Zambrów, Polish prisoners of war are brutalized in a massacre that claims hundreds of lives, the darkness of night echoing muffled screams, and the wet impact of bayonets piercing flesh, with the smell of sweat and fear mixing with that of burned gunpowder. Meanwhile, in Romania, the cabinet, under intense German pressure, decides to intern evacuated Polish leaders and drastically limits the flow of war supplies, sealing the isolation of agonizing Poland, where the distant echo of diplomatic decisions leaves combatants with an emptiness in their chests, the air loaded with palpable despair. Global reactions echo distant and ineffective. In London and Paris, diplomats debate furiously, but aid is delayed, with only empty declarations reaching Polish ears, leaving them alone in the vortex of destruction, feeling the weight of betrayal like a cold blade in the back. Soldiers on the front line, with trembling hands holding rusted rifles, feel exhaustion in aching bones, and the cold of night penetrating damp trenches, while civilians in devastated villages weep for the dead. The air loaded with dense mourning and the smell of ashes from burned homes. This day marks the escalation of Nazi brutality, with atrocities that echo as omens of greater horrors yet to come, while the Battle of Bzura continues furious. With significant losses on both sides, thousands of Poles fall but inflict damage on the invaders, the blood-soaked ground witnessing human tenacity. Poland bleeds profusely, but its resistance persists like a faint beacon in the growing darkness, with the sound of distant cannons promising more pain. Tomorrow brings more uncertainty, more suffering, while the war devours everything in its implacable path, leaving scars that burn in the collective soul. To not miss the next day, subscribe, like, and comment.